Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. Through my podcast and signature coaching program, I teach women just like you how to ditch the inner fat bitch, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. If you like this podcast, you're going to love my group coaching program. If you want to learn more about it, including the investment cost, what's included, and get real client testimonials, and to sign up and enroll, please head over to irresistibleicing.com/course. The link is also in the show notes. Hello, and let me just first welcome you to the very first Irresistible You podcast episode of 2022. It is a brand new year. We are starting fresh, and I am so excited for what this year is going to bring, some of the things that I have on the horizon for the podcast and beyond. And we are just going to get into all kinds of good stuff this year. And what I wanted to start off with was a topic that has become very near and dear to my heart because it has helped me to put my own journey this past year into a way that I can understand and give myself a little bit more grace and forgiveness. And that's the topic of survival brain versus your learning brain. And we're going to dive into that here in just a second. But as you know, here's what happens to me, guys. Every year, towards the end of the year, I tend to get very emotional and nostalgic. And, I think that's just natural as we get to the end of the year. We start to look at, what we accomplished, what was our, what goals we crushed, just, all the things that happened in the year. What are you proud of? What do you wish you did better? And I was having a really hard time with this one this year. I was looking, and here's what kind of sparked how some of my feelings were going. I was on Instagram and just seeing all the reels that people were creating that had their 2021 year, and it was like this reel of all kinds of videos and images that they put together to just summarize how their year went. And I thought, wow, like my year was so boring, especially compared to years past in my life. Like it just looked a lot different this year. It looked a lot different for a lot of reasons. And I was just trying to sit there and figure out, like, okay, what am I really proud of this past year? And what did I accomplish? And I really was struggling with that. And I was sitting down with my husband and we were talking about all this stuff too. And he's like, your biggest accomplishment, he's like, for both of us, is that we survived 2021 and Catalina's thriving. And we're like rocking it with her diabetes management. And he's like, that's what you have to be the most proud of. And I thought, because I'm a mom, I'm also a business owner, and I'm very much someone who is driven by goals. I'm very much driven by the need for achieving. Like if I don't feel like I'm achieving and building momentum and moving ahead, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And I would say this past year has definitely been the most challenging year that I've had. It's been the most emotionally taxing year that I've had. And it has pushed me in ways that I never thought I would be pushed. And it has also created a scenario where a lot of my business goals and even my personal goals, I feel like I've had to put some of those on hold because I just wasn't in the right space to accomplish. I survived and I got through things, but I wasn't thriving, and I wasn't thriving in that irresistible you way that I want to be thriving. And sometimes that's just what it is. And sometimes that's just what happens. And this past year, just completely knocked me off my feet. I know my longtime listeners already know, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because there's other episodes. But for those of you that might just be tuning in for the first time or you're not sure what I'm talking about, in June of 2021, my 4-year-old daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes is the type of condition, I don't like to say disease, it's the type of condition that you don't get any breaks from. You don't get to say, all right, let me read up on this, let me figure it out, and then on Monday we'll get started. There are no meals off, there are no nights off, there are no days off, there are no hours off. It is a constant 24/7 management of this. And it completely shattered my world when I found out. And I'm going to cry thinking about it because when it first happened, I didn't know if things were going to go back to normal again. I mean, you just think about the littlest things like, oh my God, is she ever going to have a birthday party again with cake? Is she going to be able to go trick or treating? Is she going to be able to do this? Is she going to be able to go to school? Like, you just think about all these things. And, we have definitely been put through some challenges this year. And I will just say that, she's thriving. She is, nothing in her life has changed other than, we have a couple little things we have to do with her insulin pump every couple days, and mommy has to give her insulin through that. And just, in her mind, there's really not a lot that's changed because, I think about that because my husband and I have shouldered all of the things that come along with it. So anyway, that just, rocked my world. And when I sit here and think about it, it's only been a little over 6 months. Because sometimes I get in the mode where I'm like, why am I not working on this? Why am I not doing this? Why am I still, and it's like, you've only been doing this for a few months. It hasn't even been a year yet. So it's like, sometimes you just are going, and you don't realize you've been going that way for so long, and it just starts to become the way you do things. So that happened, and there's many other things that were challenging this year, lots of personal things and lots of things that I've shared and lots of things that I don't feel like sharing. And it has been a really hard year. And then we have to topple that, all of those things. So think about all the things in your life that have gone on this past year, and then you have to stack that on top of the fact that we are still not living in normal times. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that, or they don't give that enough credit. We are still living in a pandemic. We have now gone into year 3. So let's just take a moment and think about that. That means for the past couple of years, the pandemic is still running in the back of your mind at all times. Okay? We hear that it's going to get better, it's going to get better. Think about all the times that we've heard that. 2-week window. It'll be better by spring, by summer, by fall, by the time we have vaccines, by the time Delta's gone, by the time we have all these new variants. And it's like, let's just recognize that we are still not living in normal times. We may all be going out and about and, living our life, but we're living our life in the constant, and maybe you're not constantly worrying, but it's the constant knowing, oh my God, if I go to this restaurant tonight, am I going to get sick? Am I going to get my kids sick? Am I going to get my parents sick? Having to have a mask, having to do all these things that it's not normal, guys. Let's just call it what it is. So the last 2 years for me have been not normal. They're not normal. And on top of living through that, life still throws you curveballs. Life still punches you in the gut and gives you other things you have to deal with. And so, I've mentioned it several times throughout the last few episodes, especially since June, where I haven't felt like myself. I haven't felt like myself in a very long time. I feel like a shell of myself. I feel like, there's little glimmers starting to come back, because not only that, for those of you that are new, 2021, I was also raising a newborn. My son was born October 2020. And so the first year with a newborn, it's already a shit show. I mean, you're not sleeping. It's just a shit show. Call it what it is. And so the pandemic, the diabetes, there's been lots of other things going on that, I don't feel that I need to share as well. And it's like, it's just been a lot. And so I would look at myself and go, well, you didn't lose the weight you wanted to lose. You didn't hit some of the business goals that you wanted to hit. You haven't been as creative and innovative as you want to be. And there's this part of me, and I have felt this for a good chunk of that year, where it's almost like an out of body experience where you see what you want to be doing. Like, I want to exercise again. I want to eat clean. I want to get dressed up and, like, have my heels and all my full glam. I want it. But then there's this thing that comes over me that just can't give a shit. Because, and this is where it comes in the topic today, it's a long way to get there. I have been living in survival brain. And I think a lot of you listening can probably relate to that as well. Even just going through this pandemic, a lot of us are working in survival brain to some extent. And what I mean by that is because you don't, and you may not be giving that credit. And you're like, why do I always feel like crap? Why do I always feel like shit? Why am I not doing what I want to be doing? How come I can't lose my weight right now? Because if you're in survival brain, you can't think about anything else. It's not possible. So I want to just explain what that means in the easiest way for you to understand, and why that is getting in the way of you accomplishing your goals. And how, if we want to kill it in 2022, we have to start taking steps to get out of survival brain. Because I can't do it anymore. I feel like I'm breaking. I feel like I can't continue on this path anymore. Some of the dust is starting to settle and the light has come on, and it's like we're getting into this groove with, Javi being, 14 months, and he's walking, and he's just, starting to do a lot of things, and he's not so like a little potato that just sits there and is like, you know what I mean? As kids get older, it gets easier, and then it also gets harder. It's like a weird thing. But you know what I mean? And then with Kat, like, we've got her insulin pump, we've got her glucose monitor, we've learned so much. We're still continuing to learn, we're still continuing to tweak things, but I feel like we're in this really good spot where it's like, okay, this is our life. And yes, the pandemic is still going on. And I think what we need to also do with that is just tell ourselves we don't know when it's going to end, because we don't. It might be like this forever, guys. I don't know. But if we continue to stay in survival mode, waiting for that next thing of when it might be better, when it might end, you're never going to get where you want to be, because you're going to just continue to stay in that place. And so one of the things too that I feel like I'm just like all over the place, but as the year was going on, I kept noticing every time I would go anywhere, whether it was to the store or out for a walk in the neighborhood, I had this overwhelming sense of hypervigilance. And what I mean by that is, I've got the stroller, I got Javi in the stroller, I got Chewy in my other hand, and then Kat's walking or riding her bike. And I'm already hypervigilant enough as a mom, because it's like I'm looking out for cars ahead, way down the street, because she's walking ahead or riding her bike, and I'm trying to make sure she's okay. Trying to make sure the baby's okay and that Chewy's not eating weird shit off the street, and just already have my attention split 3 different ways for these 3 people that depend on me. And it was taking away from the enjoyment of my walks. And the thing about that is, for me, one of the ways I like to feed my soul, which feed your soul is also a guiding principle in the Irresistible You framework in my program. This thing that I always did to feed my soul was now starting to make me crazy, because I wasn't able to focus on anything. I couldn't focus on nature. I couldn't focus on my thoughts, my breathing, listen to podcasts, like none of that, because I'm so hyper vigilant about watching all of them. Right? I would notice when I go to the store. It's the same way. It's like hyper vigilant that my child stays with me. I got the baby in the stroller or the shopping cart, and then it's like, don't touch that. Don't rub your face, your hands on your face. Like, every person walking by feels like a threat because, oh my God, they might have the virus. and living in this shit for 2 years. And I would say 2020 for me was way worse, because there were so many unknowns and there was no vaccine and I was pregnant. So being pregnant, it was really like, oh my God. And we'd had so many things that we didn't know yet. So then I got diabetes on top of that with my daughter. So my hypervigilance has just gone through the roof. And I really noticed it about a month ago when I went to a birthday party for her. And I was having a really hard time being social. And I thought, oh my God, am I becoming socially awkward? Like, because we've been in isolation in these last couple of years. We're not as, we don't get together with people as much. I was like, what is going on? And it's like, I'm trying to have fun myself and, talk to people because, I need to make more friendships. I need to make better relationships. I know that. And at the same time, I've got one eye on my kid who's out in the yard playing with the other kids, and I want her to feel normal, and I want her to feel like she fits in, and I want her to feel like she can just go and have fun. But at the same time, I'm sitting there, looking down at the phone and my watch to make sure her blood sugar is not crashing or skyrocketing. And my attention span is just being pulled and my hypervigilance is on edge. I'm on the edge. And then sure enough, because they were playing so hard, her sugar ended up crashing and it crashed really hard, really low, and really dangerously. And so then you're at this party, you're trying to get your kids' sugar up, and nobody knows what you're going through. Nobody understands. And it's just, I got in the car and my husband called me just out of the blue. He called me. It just so happened right as I got in the car, and I couldn't even speak because I was so choked up because it's like, this is what I was talking about at the beginning, where it's like, sometimes I remind myself, Amy, it's only been a few months, because I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? And it's like, this was one of the first, maybe the second birthday party since she got diagnosed. And you're still learning how to do it. You're still learning how to make this fit into your life. Of course it's still awkward. Of course you don't know yet. Of course, and instead of being down, oh my God, how did her sugar crash? It's like, how do I learn from this in the future? What can I do differently? What can I do better? And I did all that, and we figured it out. And we figured out where we can make some improvements. But my point being, running like this for months, years, you're in survival brain. And let me just explain to you kind of like what survival brain is. Survival brain is when you are hyper focused on threat and you cannot focus on anything else. And so this is actually a good thing because it's so primal to how we developed, right? Back in the day when we were, cave people, this is something that kept people alive. Having survival brain keeps you alive. If you are a cave person and there's a saber-toothed tiger coming towards you, you are not going to be like, okay, well, let me multitask and let me Google we're going to pretend we could Google back then. Let me Google what kind of tiger that is and what's the best way to fight it and what's the best way to do this. And, oh, let me go put some clothes on the line. No, you're going to be like, I have to get out of here as soon as possible and just survive. Same thing in modern day. If a grizzly bear is coming towards you, are you going to sit there and look shit up on your phone and listen to a podcast and try to do a million different things at once? No, you're going to just get the hell out of there. So when you are going in survival brain, think about it this way. We may not be, sitting here being chased by bears or saber-toothed tigers or, whatever, but we still have threats on a daily basis. The pandemic is an ongoing threat. Because every time I leave the house, I'm not one of these people who denies COVID, never been that person. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am not someone also who sits in the house and stays scared. Okay? You have to find the right balance for you. We go out and we do things. We do activities. We went to Disney World. We go out to eat. there's a certain amount of risk that you have to be willing to take. But anyway, every time I do anything, it's still in my head. It may not drive my decisions as far as like, oh my God, no, we have to stay home or we can't do this. But it's like, oh God, like you can feel it. You feel like you're dirty. You feel like you have germs. It's there, guys. Okay. It's a constant threat. And then you think it's going to get better. And then you get the next variant. And it's been nonstop for how many years now? So that survival brain is already hyper focused. It's hyper vigilant. And so when you're in survival brain, you can't think about anything else. You don't have the capacity to think about anything else. So when I go back and think about the year, how, I love to just geek out in my office and get the whiteboard out and get really creative. Okay, what can I add to the program this year? How can I improve the podcast? What are some new topics we can do? What are some new courses that I can create? What are some new trainings, some new social media things? I haven't been able to do that in a very long time. Now, it doesn't mean I was stagnant the whole year, because I wasn't. Because I still have to run the business. I still have to make money. I still have to serve my community. But I haven't felt that I've been able to do that in the capacity that I'm capable of. And I would get down on myself, like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're lazy. You, just push through it. Having kids is not an excuse. What is wrong with you? Like, I was really beating myself up about all this stuff. And then you realize, oh shit, like I'm in survival mode. And for me also, a lot of it has been literal survival mode. Being in this state, there are times this year where it has meant keeping my kid alive. If I don't catch that sugar falling in the middle of the night, it's not good. If I don't catch that skyrocketing sugar, it's not good. Like, we have real problems with that. And I always say, like, if my kids are good, I'm good. If my kids aren't good, you guys know that are parents, when there's something that's not right with your kids, everything comes to a screeching halt. I don't care what it is. Everything just becomes non-important. And it's not that work is not important, because it is. We have to work to survive. You cannot live if you don't have money, period. Right? You cannot survive if you're not bringing money to pay the bills and pay for the food, period. But when you're just trying to survive, that's all you're doing. You're not focused on it. So I was thinking about it. It's like, wow, well, no wonder. I'm just barely getting through the days. Like, I'm making sure my kids are taken care of, between Javi being a newborn, between Kat being a new type 1 diabetic, doing some work that I need to get done, working on some contracts that I need to work on, and some stuff behind the scenes. And it's like, I don't have anything else left to give by the end of the day. And I was wondering to myself, like, I just kept finding myself in that slump. And you know what I'm talking about, where it's like work, get the kids taken care of, get everybody taken care of, get ready for get everybody to sleep, come downstairs and just want to melt into the couch and zone out and zombie eat your ass off. That's it. And I was thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with you? It was like earlier in the year, you were putting Javi down. He was a tiny newborn and you were hitting the gym in the garage. And I was doing really well because I wasn't living in survival mode like this. It wasn't like this. And sometimes we're going to hit things in our life that knock us off our feet. And that's okay. It's okay to be in survival mode because you're doing what you need to do to get through the situation. There will always be time and space for you to get out of that to get out of that mode again and to be in thriving mode. So when I was reading up on this, it's real science stuff around this, guys. So it's like when your brain has a threat, okay? what it basically does is it shuts down everything else in your brain that you would normally be doing, being creative, just all of those kind of things that we love to do that make us feel like we're thriving. We're not able to do those when we're in these threatening moments. Okay. And even though you're not sitting there running away from a bear, you've got this constant threat. And my husband said he's so funny. He was like, type 1 diabetes is our saber-toothed tiger, and we made it a pet. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, we have a saber-toothed tiger in our house, and he's no longer like attacking us all the time, but it's our family pet, but at any time it could attack. And the saber-toothed tiger is diabetes, right? It's like we're still in that mode of like, this could still hurt. This could still be it's just, it's always there. So anyway, I really wanted to talk about this because I feel like a lot of us are going through this where we're being hard on ourselves, especially over the last couple of years, and we're not giving credit that we're not operating in our normal pattern. We're not operating in our normal world. And so there's a lot of things that happen when you're in survival brain. I want to share some of these things because I think it's just so important for you to understand it, because the only way that you're going to cross the bridge and get into the thriving mode is to first recognize that you're even in survival mode. Okay? Like I said, primally survival brain, it's a good thing. It keeps us alive when there's a major threat. But it also can make everything feel much more difficult. It's like if you have financial problems, that is your saber-toothed tiger. And when you have financial problems, you can't focus on anything else but making ends meet, right? And when you're functioning that way for so long, it's almost, and I think this is true, like it almost changes the chemical makeup in your brain. That's why when you have trauma, it actually changes your brain. And that's how I was feeling. I was like, I don't feel like myself when I'm in social situations. I feel awkward. I feel weird. What is going on? And there's some reality to all of this. So when you're in survival brain or survival mode, however you want to call it, you're not able to focus. It's hard to concentrate. You might not be able to finish things. So when you think about weight loss, you're not able to focus on your thoughts. You're not able to focus on meal planning. You're just trying to get the next meal. So instead of beating yourself up, you need to sit and ask yourself, like, am I going through survival brain right now? And is that the reason why? What is causing me to lose my focus? Right? It also changes your memory. And I had noticed this with myself where I literally would think of something that I needed to like look up on the computer, and then I go to look it up and I can't remember what it was. Just changes in memory. Like you're just not able to remember things as sharply as you can when you're in learning brain. And we're going to talk about learning brain here in a second. That's definitely been true for me as well. And let me get back to the lack of focus too, because I wanted to share this as well. As I sit there and had like this out of body experience where I'm like, I wish I was working out more. I wish I was eating better. I wish I was dressing up more. I wish I was being more social. And I will be on social media scrolling Instagram and Facebook and, seeing what all my friends and family are up to. And I haven't been able to comment on things like I used to or to reach out to people. And it's not a lack of not wanting to. It has everything to do with I have nothing else left to give. And it's not that I don't care, because I care deeply about people I love. All I've been able to give sometimes is a thumbs up or a heart. And I just want people, if you know me in real life, to hear that and understand that it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. and that I just don't have it in me right now to reach out and send an email or a text message or a phone call. I just am running on fumes. I'm running on fumes and I don't have it in me to give it to you. But I care deeply, and I see, if you're on social media and we're friends, like I see you. I love what you guys are all doing. I just may not have it in me to reach out in the way that I would like to at this moment. And I know that will get better. Because survival brain causes extreme, extreme fatigue. And I have had ungodly fatigue. Like, sleep doesn't cure it. I could sleep for days and I'm still tired because it's not a physical tired, it's your mind, it's your soul, it's your body that's just like your bones. Everything's tired. And that's real. And so when you're like, "Oh, I'm so lazy. I should be working out or I should be doing this." It's like, but if you're in survival mode, that survival thing is taking away all your energy because you're running on high speed. It also can make you feel overly emotional, almost irrational at times. Like you just get really irrationally emotional about things because your brain is just, it can't think logically sometimes when this is going on. And then the other thing is self-care. When you're in survival mode, you may not be showering as much, putting your makeup on, doing your laundry, cleaning your house, like all these things that we need to do for self-care and basic needs kind of goes to the wayside. I remember the first couple weeks that Kat was home from the hospital and the bills were stacking up. I'm like, I have to get to that shit later because it wasn't a priority. My priority is how the hell do I figure out these calculations? How the hell do I give my 4-year-old 5 to 10 needles a day when she's hiding in the corner screaming? That was my survival. That was my threat. So the bills that were stacked up, the mail that was coming in, the house that needed to be straightened up, the piles of laundry, it's just going to have to wait. And I don't think I even posted or texted anyone or reached out to anybody for like a month because I couldn't. I just didn't give a shit at the moment. Because like I said, when your kids aren't good, nothing else matters. Nothing. And I would say, I am not in that level of survival mode. Thank you, God. And that was really tough. But there's still a level of survival brain where it's like the hypervigilance, just thinking and worrying about certain things. And, we're living with diabetes, but just like the pandemic, it's always running in the background. It's always there to think about, to monitor. I'm constantly looking at a number, whether it's on my phone or my watch. I'm constantly watching that number. And then if Javi, if he's taking a nap, I'm constantly got him on the monitor, making sure his stomach's moving up and down. Like, it's just a lot, guys. It's a lot. And so I want you to think about in your own life, how much is on your plate? How much that's on your plate is out of the ordinary, out of the norm, right? When you're in survival mode, it causes you to be more impulsive because you're not able to plan and think ahead and think about yourself in that way. So it causes overeating. It causes over shopping. So if you are gaining weight because you're using food to cope, give yourself a little bit of grace. That has something to do with being in survival mode. Okay? It just, this has like become very interesting to me to really look at. And survival mode can come from, the things that I'm talking about, any type of trauma, a death, I would say even positive stress, like buying a home or planning a wedding where it's consuming everything in you, even though it's a positive change, it still can throw you into those feelings at times. It really can. So in order for us to move forward and to make 2022 like our most irresistible year and really laying that foundation, we have to meet ourselves where we are and we have to start making changes, because otherwise you will keep going in this mode, and 10 years go by and you're like, who am I? Who is this person in the mirror? I don't even recognize her, right? Um, and depending on what's going on in your life, you might need to like go get some therapy, go get some additional help with that stuff. I go to a therapist every single week. You don't want to just, you may not, number one, you may not have anyone in your life that is safe to talk about these things with. Number two, you don't want to put that on other people in your life. I talk to my husband about everything, but I also need an outside person who's not attached to our situation to help me get through some of that stuff. And that is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. And we need to normalize that. Getting therapy, getting mental health help is normal stuff. If you had a physical pain, you would go and get help. Okay? And I read something. It said, and I'll have to link this because I was kind of reading through some of their bullet points too. I'll have to link this in the show notes. In this article, it says, you are not doing anything wrong. You are doing enough. You are not failing. I'm going to get emotional to read that. Because that's what I was feeling. I felt like I failed this year. I felt like my professional goals and my personal goals, I didn't achieve those this year. I wanted to get all the baby weight off last year, and I didn't. But we have to reframe those things. I also didn't gain any weight. I also lost weight. I didn't lose the amount of weight that I wanted to, but I still lost a good amount of it. Okay? And we have to focus on, even if you maintain, that's a win. Let me say that again. You are not doing anything wrong. You are doing enough. You're not failing. And this part really hits me. It says, you are having a physiological experience to stress and trauma. Guys, there's something so validating about that, of knowing, I'm not a lazy bitch. I'm not a slob. I'm not a hag. I was really giving it to myself. You hag, who are you? You always are dressed up and, looking glam, and who are you? And it's I want it to look that way. I want to feel that way. But then there's this block, this wall that's just and for what reason? Who cares? Because you are having a physiological experience to stress and trauma. Really take that in. That fatigue, that hypervigilance, that over emotional state, that is your body reacting to what's going on. That is your body doing what your body's actually supposed to do to keep you alive. Okay? And then it says this is normal and temporary. And that gives so much relief, right? We don't have to stay in this place. But we can't leave this survival mode until we even acknowledge that we're here. Because if you're just going through the motions, you don't even realize that this is a thing. And that's what I've been saying. I've actually been saying this in a certain, maybe not in the same words, but for a long time with the pandemic even. That you just, human beings, we're pretty amazing because we can adapt to anything you put us through. It might feel like hell, but we always come through and adapt. And as we adapt, we forget that we're actually not living in a normal time. And one of the ways I love to think about this, okay, so let me use this as an example. So the hallway light, let's say the hallway light is out. I had this hallway light by my closet, and the hallway where my closet is had a light in the hallway. And that light had been out for maybe a month or two. Husband finally fixed it, okay? Even though it was fixed, I don't know how many days, maybe even not a couple weeks, but how many days, up to a week or so, did I still keep going through that hallway in the dark? I was like in the closet looking for shit in the dark because my brain adapted to what it was like to not have the light. And even though I have it now, I'm still not using it because I forget, because I've been going through it for so long. And so I want you to think about that too in the terms of the world, what's going on in your life, your personal situations. You might stay, like, even though I don't need to really be in that hypervigilant state so much anymore because things are more manageable in my life, it's like a knee jerk reaction still. Your overeating is still a knee jerk reaction because you haven't learned and trained yourself to do it any differently. So, I know for me, one of the biggest, and it's funny because this is in the article too, like one of the biggest things for me that always helps is I have to get outdoors and I have to feed my soul. I need to move my body because all of that energy, that anxiety, that stress, it physically, like, I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my hands, my legs, everywhere. And that's why I always tell you guys it's so weird. Whenever I start working out, going for a walk, going for a run, whatever kind of workout, kickboxing, dancing, it doesn't matter. I start crying because all those feelings were stuck. And it's like letting them out, letting that energy flow out of me. Okay? Um, so there's a lot of different things we can do. And as I'm reading through this in this article, I'm like, this is the Irresistible You framework in a different way. Because they talk about moving your body, being kind to yourself, having grounding techniques, reaching out for support, prioritizing self-care. Let's go through the framework. Number 1 is break the rules. Break the rules is, how are you speaking to yourself? How are you thinking about yourself? What rules have you created because of your situation? We talk about what rules have you created around body image, food, weight, but think about your current survival situation. You created some rules around that too. I know I did. So before you can even get out of this situation, you've got to think about, all right, let me reframe the way I'm thinking about it. Let me reframe and rewrite some of these rules. Number 2 is make confidence queen. We can't feel confident when we're not taking care of ourselves. We can't feel confident when we're constantly second guessing our decisions. We can't feel confident when we are just, in that mode. So working on your confidence, figuring out what's my next best move, because the only way you're going to build confidence, because I felt like I lost a lot of my confidence this year because I've been in survival mode and I just slowly slipped away from who I really am because my kids became my number 1 priority. And let me be real, they're always my number 1 priority, but I started putting myself way last, and I can't do that anymore. So it's like, I feel like I lost my train of thought there. The only way you build confidence is to take action. And the more you take action forward, it alleviates your anxiety. It really does. And I told you guys at the beginning, it's like, for me, I have to always feel like I'm building momentum or achieving things, or I get really anxious. I don't feel like I'm doing enough. So maybe it's rebuilding your confidence again. I know for me, I've had to do that here and there. I've had to rebuild some of that confidence that I feel like I lost. The third principle is to feed your soul. Feed your soul. Like, what's going to make you, like, you can't live in the monotony of work, school, kids, pay the bills, eat. Like, we have to thrive also. And when you're in survival mode, that is actually what's missing, is that soul feeding thriving. I stopped going, like, I would sit in the house like, I really want to go for a walk today. It's nice outside. I really want to. And then I would go, oh God, I got to get him dressed. I got to get her dressed. And then I got to answer 500 questions about, where are we going? What shoes should I wear? And like, come on, get your shoes, get your socks, like it, and then get the dog ready. The littlest tasks seem like mountains when you're in this place. So I'm like, F it, I'm not going. This is a pain in the ass. So slowly you start becoming less of who you really are. If you're someone who likes to go for walks and now you're not going, or you're someone that likes to go to the beach and watch the sunrise or the sunset, now you've taken away these things that help you feel like you're thriving to feed your soul. And that's the kind of stuff that takes us out of survival mode. And was it on New Year's Day? It's a thing that people go hiking. And I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go to the park. We have this beautiful state park that is half woods, half beach. And I miss that. I miss, packing all the stuff up and getting outside and being adventurous and finding new things and exploring and, having my kids have this experience. And Chewy loves to go out and do these things with us too. And it just felt so good because you're feeding your soul, but you're also moving your body. And we all know the benefits of that. So number 4 is to be in the moment. And I know for sure that's been a challenge this year. Being in the moment means acknowledging where you are and leaning into that instead of going, oh, I wish I was this, I wish I was that, I wish I was here, I wish I was there. It's like just acknowledging this is where I'm at. And for me right now, it's like, I'm not 100% back to where I was. I feel like honestly, guys, I don't feel like I've felt normal since 2019. And I think a lot of people feel that way. That's the last time a lot of us did things. It is the last time we did things where we didn't have to think about the pandemic. And even though you might be doing some of the same activities, it feels different. It just does. Things are different. But being in the moment is being present, being mindful. And I have really felt this with my kids where I don't want to play. And that's another reason I know I have to make these changes because I see I'm not my full potential right now in every single area of my life. And it doesn't mean I'm like this every moment of the day. That's not true. But I want to show up and be more mindful and be more present and to be here with whatever it is I'm doing with whoever I'm doing that with. So that's number 4. And number 5 is get your glam on. And this is what we said, self-care. Get your brain on. Oh my God. Get your glam on is all about taking better care of yourself, showing up. I don't want to show up in the world looking a hot mess with the 3-day-old hair thrown up in some bun, sweatshirt, sweatpants. I don't want to look like that. And there's been more times than the opposite that I feel like that's how I have shown up lately. And I'm not with it. I don't like it. And that's the thing is I sit there and go, ugh, I don't want to look like this. But I just don't have it in me to throw the heels on, throw the jeans on. We got dressed up New Year's Eve and I was like, oh, there you are. Oh, there you are. Like, welcome back to the world. But it's self-care. It's, taking care of yourself, presenting yourself in a way that you want to show up to the world, the way you dress, the way you look, the way you take care of your body, just feeling confident in that. And those are the 5 principles. And when I look through how to get out of survival brain, it's all interconnected here. And I know that these work because all the other times in my life, this is what grounded me. This is what got me back to being me. And I lost sight of that in 2021. I tried here and there, and it would last for a little while, and then I just kept losing my focus because I was in extreme survival mode. And that doesn't make me, not capable, fully capable. It just means we go back to what it said. My body was having a physiological experience to stress and trauma. And finding out your child has a lifelong medical condition is trauma. Living through a pandemic is trauma. Losing someone to the pandemic, trauma. There are multiple layers of trauma, guys. And, I don't want you sweeping something under the rug going, well, that doesn't count. If it's affecting you, it counts. okay? Because there's big trauma and there's little trauma. And all of it matters. And all of it can change us. And again, it's all normal and it's all temporary. We have to change the way we think about it. We have to change the way we talk about it, think about it, feel about it, and we're able to rewrite that. That's what Break the Rules is all about. That's what it's all about. This is not a forever problem. If you're willing to put the work in, if you're willing to dedicate the time that it's going to take because you know that you deserve better, then that's what you're going to do. And also think about when you get better, who else gets better because of it as well? So the goal right now for me is to move from survival brain into learning brain. Learning brain is that place where we are able to, be more creative, to think differently, to plan, to dream. We can't do that in survival brain. It just doesn't happen there because you are in fight or flight. That's fight or flight mode. And if you want to make this an amazing year, we got to start there. Don't start with big sweeping changes because you're never going to want to follow through with that. You start where you start, you meet yourself where you are, and you start to take little small steps. And one of the best questions you can ask yourself right now, what's my next best move? What is my next best step? Not tomorrow, not tonight, but right now. What is the next best thing that I could do to move myself forward to where I want to be? I feel that I've barely scratched the surface with this topic, and I'm very much intrigued by it. I want to dig deeper into it. I know we'll continue the conversation over in the free Facebook group and over on my Instagram. And I might even end up doing some more, let me know what you feel about this and if you like this topic. But I might even do another episode around this, or even maybe a Facebook Live or some type of free course. I don't know. I really want to dive more into this because I think it's something that we can really talk about, especially with the weight loss journey and why you're stuck, why you feel like you can't, that whole saying about like, I know what I need to do, but I just can't do it. And it might be because you're stuck in survival mode. And survival mode, you might have been in survival mode since you were little. Who knows? So I want to dive into this more. I want to learn more. I want to talk about it more, and we will definitely be doing that. In the meantime, make sure you head over to the free Facebook group and request to join. Is completely free. If you want to take this further, if you want to work with me, head over to irresistibleicing.com/course. And if you want to show the podcast some love, please share this with a friend, and also feel free to leave a review on iTunes. That makes everyone, what it does is it helps other people see the podcast so that they can also join our amazing community. On that note, guys, Happy New Year. Happy 22. Let's make this amazing. Let's make it irresistible. I will catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.